Each state in Germany has their own education policy, which the school must follow. All students will start off in primary school, which is 4 years, and then after that, they're able to go off to secondary school, or they're going to high school, where there's two different opportunities and two different paths for you. In Germany, students take exams along with standardized testing. Students are not, students are not penalized for for having a bad outcome on these tests. After secondary school, most students will apply themselves to apprenticeships where they can get hands-on experience on what they want to do. Another opportunity you have as a German citizen is at 17, you are able to join the army. With all the requirements of basic education being done, this is another opportunity you have. Germany has one of the largest armies in the world today, and with this being one of the many things you can do, it's a great choice. Germany will always be a major element in today's history, in the world's history, as it reflects such a strong part of what we learn today. And to learn about it is just amazing. You know, going back and learning new things about it and understanding why certain things were done the way they were.
While not settling their own colonies, Germans were some of the first to settle in the New World, primarily in PA, NY, and VA. The German belt extends from eastern part to Oregon. Many arrived seeking religious or political freedom. Some came for a fresh start. Regardless, millions arrived by the 19th century. Since the German population is so massive, they have sort of dominated in feats. One example of many is Karl Schurz, a refugee from the unsuccessful First German Democratic Revolution of 1848, became an influential politician first in the Republican then in the Democratic Party and served as U.S. Secretary of the Interior. German Americans have always been invested in politics. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, many German Americans were communists. Some were anarchists. It should be noted that most of what us Americans take for granted when it comes to labor rights came from the direct action of immigrant workers, communists, and unions. Happy Labor Day. Although May 1st is the real Labor Day, Germans played a significant role in the labor union movement. Many were members of the IWW, Industrial Workers of the World, and prescribed to an ideology called syndicalism, which is a sort of obsolete industrialized communism. During World War I there was much anti-German sentiments floating about. So much that lists were made of all German Americans, and some people such as Edmund Kaiser were killed due to their stances on the war.
Though German culture assimilated into the American mainstream, many German immigrants still chose to send their children to German public schools. German immigrants were very fond of Deutschtum, which is their own word for strong pride into their national values. However, they were finally forced to absorb into American culture when World War I began. So there ended up being major issues with German integration in the U.S., but integration itself wasn't truly recognized till after the World Wars. German Americans brought new traditions beginning with World War I and later on into World War II. Unfortunately, German culture began to be excluded when the U.S. government started to promote anti-German propaganda. In fact, there was an argument that if you spoke German, you would end up thinking like a German, which at that point was very anti-American. So you may be wondering, where did German immigrants actually end up in the U.S.? German immigrants actually ended up settling in large cities like New York City, Milwaukee, and Cincinnati in the late 19th century. They ended up coming to the U.S. because of a variety of reasons, like unemployment and facing religious and political persecution back in Germany. Surprisingly, Pennsylvania actually has the largest population of German Americans in the U.S. So German immigrants did bring a mainstream culture into the U.S., but German ancestry has since been Americanized. However, there are everyday things in our lives that we can contribute to German immigrants, such as foods like hamburgers, pretzels, and lager. Germans not only contributed to the development of U.S. military rockets, but other things as well.
German immigrants were among the first Europeans to set foot in North America. German adventurers could be found roaming the farthest reaches of the New World for many years afterward. It was religious tolerance, though, that first brought large numbers of Germans to North America during the 17th and 18th centuries. Many European powers forced their subjects to follow an official state religion. Therefore, when William Penn toured Germany in 1677, spreading the word of a new kind of religious freedom in the American colonies, he found a receptive audience. Many Germans, especially Protestants, were persuaded to join him in his colony of Pennsylvania.
The settling of the British colonies by small German-speaking religious groups continued. Most German immigrants belonged to the main Lutheran and Reformed churches. The central colonies received the greatest part of this immigration, especially Pennsylvania. 13 families of German Mennonites seeking religious freedom arrived in Pennsylvania, led by Franz Pastorius. They purchased 43,000 acres of land and founded Germantown. German Americans established the first kindergartens in the United States, introduced the Christmas tree tradition, and introduced popular foods such as hot dogs and hamburgers to America. Germans brought organized gymnastics to America and were strong supporters of sports programs. The Turner movement offered exercise and sports programs, while also providing a social haven for the thousands of new German immigrants. In the course of the 19th century, German scientists and scholars cultivated distinct national traditions in the physical sciences, the humanities, and the social sciences, which served, in turn, as important models for other countries. Since the end of the World War II, however, science and scholarship in Germany have become internationalized to such a degree that it is problematic to speak of Deutsche Wissenschaft, German science, as was once common. The most important centers for science and scholarship in Germany today are the universities, independent research institutes, such as those sponsored by the Max Planck Society, and private industry.
In January, Germans celebrate Neujahr, which is New Year's Day. February, they celebrate Mario Lickmas, which is Groundhog's Day for us. The next holiday they celebrate is Fastnacht, which is a carnival Mardi Gras type of day. The date varies every year. In April, Germans celebrate Ostern, which is Easter. The first day in May is a national holiday in Germany where they celebrate the arrival of spring, and the night before May Day, they have a bonfire to drive away the last winter. In June, Germans celebrate Father's Day. In October, they celebrate Oktoberfest, which is a big party. And on the first Sunday in October, they celebrate Erntedankfest, which is Thanksgiving, but it's not Thanksgiving. In November, they celebrate Martinmas, which is like a combination of Halloween and Thanksgiving, and it's celebrated on November 11th. In December, they celebrate Weihnachten, aka Christmas, and it's celebrated on December 24th.